In this video, we're going to talk about another unconventional side hustle using a tent. That's right, a tent. We're going to talk about how much you can expect to make, how to get started, and all the details regarding this tent. If you're looking to find a more passive side hustle, this is going to be the video for you, so stay tuned. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Robert, if this is your first time tuning in. So today we're going to be talking about a tent and basically a small glamping site, but kind of descaling it down a bit because I've seen a lot of people doing this. And for those who don't know, I own a glamping site. Links down in the description for anyone who is interested. Quick little background about my glamping site. We are ranked in the top 13 places to visit in Texas, which is, you know, a great thing to be recognized like that for the first year in business. So we're going to talk about something a little bit downscaled from that, just because I guess I'll go ahead and quickly give you a little bit of information. So it's not easy to get these things funded by a bank. I had an extreme amount of difficulty trying to find a bank to finance me. In the end, I ended up finding 0 banks willing to finance me for something like this. Whew, it's a little cold, guys. I think it's about 38 or 42, somewhere around there right now. So it's kind of cold. And I got a little light sweater on. But anyways, back to the video. So yeah, I ended up finding 0 banks to finance me for this project. I reached out to, I don't even know how many banks at this point, I lost count, and no one wanted to finance me, so I ended up having to self-fund myself, which as an investor, that is something you do not want to do. You do not want to be using your own money to finance these big projects. So, but this was something I really believed in. I really thought it was a great idea, and I'm glad I did it. It paid off. So far, it's been paying off, you know, thank God. But yeah, so it's not going to be easy. So for this video, we're going to go ahead and downscale that a little bit and make it a little bit more affordable for a lot more people, because a lot of people are going to have, you know, an extreme amount of cash to deploy into something like this. So let's start with first things first. What do you need to get this side hustle, this passive side hustle up and off the ground? And by the way, when I say passive, I'm referring to, you know, in relation to a lot of other side hustles that you can do today, this is a little bit more on the passive scale of things versus the more active scale. That's what I mean by passive. It's not 100% passive. A lot of things are not really 100% passive, even though they're called passive. But what you're going to need at least a little bit of land. Either you live on the land and maybe have a big backyard, or you buy a piece of raw land and you rent it out this way. But you're going to need a good piece of land, you're going to need some capital up front, and you're going to need a tent. Now, there's different ways you can do this. You can make it as luxury as you want. But again, for this video, we're doing it really on a budget, right? We're trying to stay in a real low budget for doing this project. Again, we're just trying to create a little extra income for ourselves and for our family. That's the whole purpose of the whole series on unconventional side hustles, is just to help families out, to kind of give them a little extra income so they can, you know, hopefully provide themselves a better life. So again, you're going to use a tent. You're going to use a little bit of a nicer tent. You don't want to go super cheap, because again, it's going to get more costly if you buy a cheap tent and it, you know, the sun deteriorates it, you know, within a couple months. So you want to spend a little bit of money on a good quality tent. And what you're going to do is you're going to set this on your property. If you live on the property, there's people who are willing to camp in someone's backyard, as long as it's somewhat of a wilderness. You don't want to camp in the city. I'm sure there are people that will do it, but for the most part, most people do not want to do that. I've seen actually people around my area doing this, using tents. I'll show you guys a picture of some of the tents that I have. These are luxury tents. They're not what we're going to be talking about in this video, but I've seen people doing just regular camping tents and renting these things out on Airbnb and a bunch of other platforms. Now, when you're looking to purchase your tent, you want to have in mind what type of clients or what kind of guests are you trying to attract. Are you trying to attract a family who's trying to go camping? Are you trying to make it a little bit more romantic and maybe trying to attract couples? Keep those two things in mind. That's going to determine, 1, your cost, how much you're going to spend on the tent. 2, how large of a tent you need to get, and all of the amenities you're going to add to this project. So for us, I will tell you guys a little bit. So for ours, we have, you know, hot tubs, pedal boats, kayaks, fish feeding, and hiking trails. A little bit of stuff to get them outdoors, a little bit more adventurous. But we also have a lot of stuff indoors, like games, barbecue pits, Wi-Fi, all that good stuff. There's different things that we have available inside in case they're inside people, and we also have things outside in case they're outside people. Again, tons of games. We plan on adding a lot more. We're still very, very early into this business, so we plan on, really, really scaling it up even more. But determining who you're going to be trying to attract, are you attracting families, or you're attracting couples? That's going to play a role into how you kind of develop this whole project. And on the size of the tent you're going to purchase. So once you have your tent already figured out, now you also need to figure out where you're going to set this tent up. If you live in the country and maybe have a big backyard, you can set it up in your backyard and put it on Airbnb. People will pay to do this. This is something that I'm coming to find out as I've gotten into this business, is that a lot of people just want to set up their tents. We've had a lot of people offer us to not necessarily stay in our tents because they are a little bit more pricey, but maybe pitch a tent on our property for 30, 40 bucks a night. So this is something that we have been seeing come up as a question more and more regularly. So I thought I'd pitch it to you guys here on YouTube. Now, if you have a vacant lot, or if you have a ranch or a large piece of property, you're going to be better off. There's going to be a lot more people, a lot more interest in people looking to escape the city noise and trying to get out to the country. So that's going to be even better. That's going to play more into your favor. Now, what I've noticed since I've done this is that people are looking for a good mix. What I mean by a good mix is they're looking for peace and quiet, but they're also looking for close to, a little bit of the city stuff, like a Walmart, H-E-B, basically groceries and places to eat, restaurants and things like that. But they don't want to be too close, but they also don't want to be super far because it makes it more of an inconvenience to go and get necessary supplies or to go out into town. Maybe they want to spend the day in the city and come back at night, or vice versa, right? So that's what I found, is that they want a good mix. They don't want to just do one or the other. They don't want to be on the opposite spectrums here. They want to kind of find something that meets both of those needs. So think about that whenever you're considering purchasing a piece of property to pitch a tent. That some people, again, also think about who you're trying to attract. Are you trying to attract people who are extremely adventurous, that want that very, very rural setting? Are you trying to attract that middle range person who wants both conveniences? Or are you trying to attract more of the city slicker? It's going to depend on who you're trying to attract, for one, but for us, what we have noticed is that we've found that people want something that's kind of in between, and we fit that bill. We're out in the country, but we're also not, 10, 15 minutes away from the city. So it fits the bill perfectly for both of those groups, I guess. Now you also need to consider, are you going to be adding, running water, electricity, heaters, ACs? All that stuff is going to be something that you're going to have to take into consideration, which is why I told you in the beginning, you need a little bit of capital to get this thing started. Now, if you're just kind of doing more of a primitive camping style type thing, then you probably don't need all that. There's probably going to be people that are fine just bringing in their own water and just, going and doing the business in the woods. There's people that are fine with that. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the more rugged, olden style type of camping. There are people that want that. But then there are people who want a little bit more modern conveniences of today. So that's something you're gonna have to, pay attention to. What do you think people in your general area or location really, really want? And that's why you need to put away at least a little bit of cash to cover that, if that's something you are planning to do. Now, again, remember, if you are not going to be offering, air conditioning, running water, electricity, all that good stuff, the modern conveniences of today, of a typical home, you can't be charging premium prices. Now, I guess this is what everyone's been waiting for. How much can you charge for this? How much am I seeing people charging for this? So for our glamping sites, which are a little bit more upscale glamping sites, we charge $260 for the more premium luxury glamping style tents. For the more basic ones, we charge $210 or $209. I just rounded it up to $210, but it's $209, $210 for the video, and those are a little bit more basic. So you have two different price ranges, and it attracts two different types of customers. So those who want a little bit more of the higher end luxuries, they pay a premium. Those who just want to come out here and kind of experience it at the bare minimum, they pay a little bit less. So we have two different prices, and that's something you could also consider whenever you are trying to start your glamping site or just a camping site. Again, I'm not talking so much about glamping here because, again, it's more expensive. It takes a lot more capital to get a glamping site started than it does a camping site. A camping site is a little bit more primitive and it's a lot less expensive to get started. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I had a very, very difficult time finding banks who would finance something like this. I was in the position where I have the cash to do it, so I went ahead and just took all the responsibility and all the risk on my own. But I know a lot of people were not probably willing to take that risk either, or have the capital to get that thing started. So that's the reason we're talking more about camping, just something that's a little bit more entry level into getting a side hustle going. Now again, none of this is financial advice. It's just for entertainment purposes only. For the more primitive camping sites that I have seen, I have some that are in my area that are less than 30 minutes away. And people are charging anywhere between $30 and $50 per night just to camp, guys. Like literally, I couldn't believe it. The amount of reviews that they have too was insane to me because, I guess because I grew up in the country myself, it's not that difficult for me to go camping. So, but I understand people who live in apartments, people who live in the city, you know, they're in a different mindset when it comes to camping. That's, you know, that's something that they don't have access to. And so that's why I have to rewind how I thought about it. I was like, well, shit, you know, you have a lot of people that are living in the city and they don't have access to stuff like this versus someone who, like me, who grew up in the country. You camp every day basically. So, not really, I'm joking, not camping every day, but you know, it's a lot more accessible to camp for someone who lives out in the country. So, it got me thinking. I was like, you know what, that's a great side hustle. And a lot of these that I'm seeing, the people actually own like a large piece of property and they're putting it behind their home. And so whoever is staying at that location or that Airbnb has access to, you know, if they need to use the restroom, they can use the restroom in that person's house. And I have seen a couple that have like porta potties. So if you don't want to be bothering, you know, some people want the privacy, they have porta potties for the people staying in the tent. That's another, you know, thing that you can consider. They're very inexpensive to purchase. A porta potty, if you are interested, there are ways to purchase those things as well. Just keep in mind you got to clean that thing out. But again, if you're running a campsite, the amount of upkeep for a campsite is, especially if you only have one, you're just trying to make some extra cash. It's not a whole lot, really. And once you start getting into the glamping stuff, then it requires a little bit more upkeep. It requires a little bit more of a team versus something like a primitive camping grounds. That's a little bit less upkeep. Again, I hope this video was helpful, informational, and entertaining for some of you guys. And yeah, I hope it helped you guys out. Again, not financial advice, just for entertainment purposes only. But without further ado, guys, appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, be careful, be good, take care, and God bless. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.